Welcome back to the Purple Political Breakdown. How's it going? How's your day been? And we're back at it again, where the motto is political solutions without political bias. And I'm going to continuously try to get better in terms of bridging the gap with even the people that I vehemently disagree with. And I think this will be a good opportunity to do that. Today is a reaction to Jubilee's video of their top 10 moments for middle ground. And my talking points from back then versus now, I want to really see if I can resonate with a lot of y'all. So like and subscribe, and let's dive right into it.
I think that when I originally heard the question being asked, I didn't agree with it, but men
There's a right and wrong way to be a man.
are not abusive individuals. Men are not to be cowards. Men are to lead their families. And men who do not display that, I don't believe that they are men, in my opinion. And all of the qualities that I see in my father is what I believe a man should be.
All of those characteristics are what make a man. And when I see a man be a coward in the truth, in just speaking the truth, or sticking up for what's right, especially today in America with everything going on, I'm like, those are not men.
At the end of the day, we're all men, and I don't believe there's any wrong way to be a man. We're just redefining what it means to be a man.
But there are things that naturally come to men. So when you say we're just redefining what being a man is, you have to understand you're redefining a fabric in society that has kept the human race and got it to where it is today. So just like aimlessly throwing out, oh, well, we're just redefining what it is to be a man, that's not just like a light subject that we should be talking about.
But why do you have to stay the same?
I'm sorry?
Why do we need to have the same thing for hundreds and hundreds of years?
Do you not see the state
It's not the same
of
thing. It's just
And I do want to present this point, right? So there's two things that you gotta take into consideration. The whole thing about like what is a woman, what is a man. I think there needs to be an understanding that there's two distinctions in terms of defining what a woman or man is. One obviously is biological sex, which is very, very much important. But what defines who you are as being a man or a woman is not necessarily just your chromosomes and your biology, but the features and I guess the cultural understanding of how those features are presented to society, right? So those are the things that matter the most. Because like, for example, make it very simple for you. When you walk up to someone, you're immediately going to have a thought: this is a man or this is a woman. You're not going to go like, hey, what are your chromosomes? So there's cultural cues there's that really tells you whether someone's a man or a woman relatively immediate, whether that's how they look, how they dress, how they act, all that stuff. So if we understand those two things, that's fine. And even if you want to attribute, which is what one of the guys here is doing, attribute those cues from biology, the only reason why they exist is because of biology, then that's fine. I think you can make an argument in terms of biology plus, like, you know, situational upbringing in terms of traits that are demanded of you. But I don't really want to touch that because I don't think it's a great point, but it's an interesting point. But everything at the end of the day is devolved into what it is based off who we are and what we become. So understanding that there is a natural way to be a man, natural way to be a woman, even removing external factors. And if people are trying to present themselves as being a man, then they are trying to be a man. And then, I mean, from surface level understanding, you probably go like, oh, that's a guy. Like if I look at this person, I'll say, oh, that's a guy, right? So there's these things you got to take into account when it comes to the conversation. But what it means to be a man and what it means to do those cues, we would have to determine what is the right way to represent those cues versus the wrong way.
it's keeping the same qualities.
But do you see the state of our world today? It's not perfect. And it's been led by men like throughout all of history, and look where it's gone.
So we're talking about redesigning what it means to be a man. So what do you want to bring to traditional men?
I think it's embracing that you can be vulnerable. I think that a lot of men want to portray strength, but men are people, and I know that men have feelings.
Being a man and masculinity, those are two different things. And I believe that we can redefine whatever that means to anybody by including other types of men or other types of masculinity. I myself am a father, I have a child. Some people would disagree with me being a father because I am transgender. But that being said, I present to the world as male, my child sees me as a man.
There's proper ways to be vulnerable, right? You don't have to break down in front of your family and cry. It's okay to suffer silence as well. Strong men, I believe, exude the qualities that you guys are referring to. I think the problem is overcorrection, right? Some people believe that men need to cry and lay on the ground and be feminine like women.
I believe Satan is evil.
Sorry, I'm just looking at my thing over here to see everything is good. When it comes to being a man and being vulnerable, it's such a interesting line to potentially dive into, because I'm not an emotional person, so I wouldn't qualify as me as like exuding vulnerability. I think it's fine to kind of be vulnerable to an extent. I think it's more being willing to communicate than being vulnerable, because I do think there's a level of strength that is wanted generally from the man, which is not a bad thing, right? That's not necessarily wrong. There's a certain level of comfortability you want from, you know, your other, right? Your woman, right? So I think these are general traits that are understandable, and I feel like people should present themselves in a way that the general person will understand and will reciprocate. And if you want to dive into another version of yourself that is different from the norm, then you have to be very transparent with that and look for people who want that as well. So differentiate yourself from the norm, and then that will help yourself in these situations.
Wait, why did you stop?
I was trying to play it out in my head, but then I realized I don't agree with that. And
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the fact that there is a Satan who is real, and the fact that he is evil is, I mean, it's an important, pretty central belief that we hold in the Christian faith, and that there is a good and loving God and a Satan who is evil.
So let's go back to Genesis, okay? God wanted to keep humans from eating the fruit of knowledge, correct? And Satan, or the serpent, wanted.
It's interesting how like the two other Christians in this scenario didn't come up with him, because I'm not religious, but if I was Christian, then I don't know how you would also not agree with the sentiment of Satan being evil, other than you're not wanting to offend anybody. So that's very interesting that they didn't come up as well.
To give humans that knowledge. I believe that's a good action.
It's a good action.
That's a good.
There's a man, I can really dive into philosophy. There's a misconception on why that would be deemed a good action, but that misconception is the not understanding the ultimate destination of what humans should have been under the Christian faith before eating the apple, right? And they would have been like the perfect beings. They would have lived in bliss and peace and all goodness. Like their life would have been completely satiated. So if that is a life, the version of life that, I'm not really going to call her out, but people like her potentially would say that, oh, I'm really depressed, life sucks and all that stuff. You wouldn't have to deal with any of that if you didn't eat from the fruit of knowledge, because we see a lot of time that, and I hate this terminology, but blissful ignorance is a thing for a reason. So knowing information does not mean that that is a good thing. And I think it's good not to be ignorant, sure, nowadays, like in society now, but in a hypothetical where it's like an absolute scenario, being perfectly ignorant and completely taken care of, where you live your life in bliss completely and you wouldn't be taken advantage of. Like it wouldn't even be like the Matrix, right? The Matrix takes advantage of you even though you're in the scenario. In the Garden of Eden, your life is completely fulfilled, absolutely 100% fulfilled, and nothing is taken from you. So there's a misconception that just because we gain knowledge, we gained a better life. But it's all philosophy, it's all like theology. It's like none of it. I mean, if you're religious, then you believe it, but if you're not, then you don't believe it. So it's like it's going down a rabbit hole, but her entire premise is completely and utterly flawed. So I'm just pointing that out, right?
Action, that's justifiable.
The first person to advocate for equal rights.
Yes. We only heard God's perspective.
Satan is the first person to advocate for equal rights. That's an interesting one.
And from my perspective, I mean, just looking into the Bible, it's like we didn't hear Satan's perspective. Maybe he said, God is a tyrannical God, and I'm going to.
Oh man. See, this is the problem. The two sides of every story, like these are the same people says maybe Hitler had a justifiable reason, right? This is where you get in a very dangerous area. Now, I do think there is two sides to everything, but when it comes to absolute beings, I mean, actions speak louder than words, right? Okay.
Rebel from him, and I'm going to become a fallen angel to help mankind.
My interpretation and understanding of that story is that God created an environment where and it was an environment of love and peace, and where his children that he created and who he loved, who he created in his image would.
They were naked and they didn't have understanding.
Yeah. That's
irrelevant. And calling them naked is also irrelevant, because they were warm, they were sheltered, they felt no harm. Like, I think people don't understand that. I mean, to be fair, man, why am I arguing? I'm not religious, but like a lot of their arguments, they have a misconception of what it meant to be in before knowledge. They have a misconception of it.
An environment for them to
Babies.
Wait, we gotta hear his whole point.
to flourish, and so he puts them in this environment, and he desires for them to flourish and to live in unashamed relationship with him and his perfection and his glory.
Naked and stupid.
I see God making simple
Stupid. Naked, it's the connotations is so off.
playthings because he's bored, if it's real then, and then saying, don't do this because I don't want you on my level. And if you do, I have to make.
They're applying human characteristics to God, but they're trying to moralize Satan. It's very weird. And you know what the interesting thing about it is, like, Satanists do some of the cruelest things you see, right? The cruelest things, sacrifice and all that. And their counter argument probably would be, well, Christians have done cruel things as well. But in a lot of those situations where Christians have done cruel things, they've done cruel things thinking that they're doing it in behest of God, but they aren't. Whereas Satanists will actively admit that they're doing things for Satan in evil ways and with evil intention. So
Make sure you can't live forever so you really don't get on my level.
Would you think that if you heard that one of your friends was having a baby and you'd say, oh, you're just making a plaything for your...
Depending on their intention.
There are some parents who use their kids as their playthings.
Yeah. But that's how I see the same generative love that out of which God created us.
I think for me, from as much knowledge as I have about Satan, I think Satan is a symbol of freedom and liberty, right? So that is not evil. Of course, like we discussed before, if people commit wrong deeds in the name of Satan, then that's wrong.
For me, I flip-flop a little only because I don't think that on his own, the devil, Satan is evil. I think he's used to represent evil. Whether he does or not, that's what he's used for. It's like very much, his character is very much used to say, like, you do something wrong, like, oh, that's an act of, like, the devil, kind of.
Anyone can become rich if you work hard enough.
So I just think that anyone could become rich if they actually believed in themselves and took the risk to actually believe in themselves, that there is some success at the end of the line of that.
I feel like a lot of it comes down to mindset first and really having the belief that you can do that. I know for me, one of my biggest concerns was I didn't have any skills whatsoever and I didn't get into college. I had like a 2.0 GPA in high school. Like, it was terrible. I had such bad grades. But I really turned that into a positive, and I really believe this actually happened for a reason, because now I could pursue something else, which was real estate, because that didn't require a college degree. And looking back now, that was the best thing that had ever happened.
That's like a really sticky situation with anyone can become like rich, and because I don't think that's completely true. A lot of people can if they have like connections and stuff, you know. But I feel like sometimes people they work 2 jobs, or sometimes they have other things going on. They have to pay their needs first. They don't always have like money for that, you know. Because like my dad, he's like a landscape worker. He has tried making his own company, and it doesn't always like work out. He has tried hard. It doesn't work. That's why I think it's like you have to have connects, you know. That's why.
Do you mind if I interject?
Yeah.
In terms of building connections, I didn't have any connections either when it comes to working in real estate. And what I did to make the connections is I went to open houses every single Sunday for months. And I probably met at least 50 or 60 real estate agents. And it was through that I met one agent who was really gracious enough to say, if you want to come work underneath me, I'm happy to do that. And it was really that connection, which like you mentioned, connection, that I met that person through just really kind of putting myself out there to meet people.
There's a lot of institutional and systemic barriers that we aren't really talking about. If you walk into like a Beverly Hills $5 million house not speaking English, they're probably not going to give you the hookup. We don't tend.
Very interesting comment. I'd love to see self-made millionaires versus trust fund inherited millionaires. That would be a very interesting topic.
To move within circles where those connections cross economic and socioeconomic lines. But even beyond that, I want to say you took a big risk and your risk paid off. But what if your risk hadn't paid off?
So the key behind that question is the word can, right? Is the potential ability to, and that's the key thing, right? And everybody does have the ability to become a millionaire. I mean, that's undeniable. I feel like the moment you say you do not have the ability to become a millionaire, you will never become a millionaire. So that is the first thing. So we kind of got that out of the way. Second, a lot of the things that can potentially happen, now luck is very much involved, but a lot of the things that you can do as an individual is based off, one, meeting the right people, but that's also getting yourself out there, learning all you can, and growing your perspective, growing your awareness of everything around you. And one thing that I will give grace to, the more and more I meet people, is that people don't generally have the capacity to enter out of their state of mind and their surroundings, everything around them. They know they want something, but they don't know how to get there, and they are unsure or unwilling to step out of the boundaries that confine them to get to the place that they want to get to. So in those situations, you kind of have to kind of lead them along. And there are people out there who have the ambition that no matter what, them as an individual will step out of their boundaries. But I think most people don't have that ambition. They say they do, but they don't really. So with that taken into consideration, everybody has the ability to become a millionaire, but not everybody becomes a millionaire because of one, not having the awareness, not having the ambition, or not having the luck. But if you have all three of these things, which are not truly obtainable naturally, then there's no reason why you can't get there as long as you are doing what you need to do and you're doing them the right way. And some people do it the wrong way. So everybody has the ability. Everybody can, but most people won't because there's a lot of factors that play into acquiring that much money. So yeah, just want to put that out there.
Spanking your child is an acceptable form of punishment.
What? I don't want to get involved at all.
Yeah.
Do we have to?
We don't have to do it at all.
I don't even want to stand back here.
We don't have to. You guys don't have to participate in the conversation whatsoever.
But is it going to show our position, like standing back or sitting?
We do see you guys in the background, but we just want to hear his perspective. Then people can walk forward. But if you don't want to participate in the conversation whatsoever, you don't have to.
Wow, yeah, so I'm kind of saddened that nobody else walked forward because not only do I think it's an acceptable form of punishment, but I think it's one of the best. And the reason is because it's effective, it's quick, it's over, it's done, and the kid can go off and play again and not have to sit in a corner or languish in a room or something like that. And it's not about getting angry, I'm mad, I'm gonna whack my kid. No, it's about, okay, you did something you weren't supposed to do, and you're going to get spanked for this.
So I'm going to ask any of my disagreeers who wish to step forward to talk about this, please do. If you wish not to step forward, you don't have to.
The specific anecdote I have is for my child is one time, like, you know, as a parent, you can lose your patience, and that happens. We would just kind of like slap him on the hand when he did something, like, don't do that, don't do that. And I remember one time he did something, and he started becoming more self-aware, and he started hitting himself on the hand and hitting himself. And I was like, I can't do this. We can't go down this path with him. This is not going to work for, at least specifically for him. And I think it's a case-by-case basis too. Like, you know, you've led your kids in a way that hopefully he doesn't lash out into the real world. I don't want him to react like that to someone else either. And I just feel like that's my responsibility. So.
Yeah, and you know, I hear that opponents to spanking will say, I don't want my child to be violent. Yeah. You know, I have 5 kids, 10 and under, and the exact opposite is true.
Because you think it's a bad memory for them?
What's that?
Do you think that they're going to have memories of these times being spanked and that it will be
sure, and I think they'll
something
be
that
thankful for it. I would do, because I
would be lying if I said I never have spanked my child. Of course I don't feel good about it. Yeah. Don't you want to?
So I appreciate like the care, the kindness, right? That's why it's good to have 2 parents, you know, it really helps the situation. For me, I mean, I don't have kids. I am an older sibling, and I have been spanked when I was young. So that's the perspective I'm coming with. One thing I will say is that I think we do need to recognize that probably the most effective or the most natural way of correction is pain, right? And we all realize that. Throughout like all these different activities you do, when you're sports, you mess up, hey, do 10 push-ups. When you're military, you mess up, hey, go run a lap, all that stuff, right? Those are forms of pain. It's not to make you more cardio efficient. It's because it's painful and they want you to stop doing it, right? So it's pain, right? Even kind of like waiting in detention for a long period of time, that's painful. So there are different forms of pain that helps correct a behavior. It's like negative reinforcement, sure, but it's the most effective way. It's natural to all living organisms that exist in the entire world. So we understand it, but it's how you utilize that which is what matters, because it's natural. It helps you. It deters you from doing stupid things. I mean, your body has certain pain receptors for a reason, so it can kind of tell you stop doing what you're doing. You're gonna hurt your body. So pain is a natural phenomenon. It is necessary. Feeling pain is not a bad thing necessarily. It hurts for a reason, but it helps you know what your body is going through and what you're doing is bad. Okay. Now, when it comes to hitting your kids, I think that hitting your kids is definitely a touchy situation. Obviously, a lot of people don't want to be judged nowadays. Anytime you hit your kids out of your own emotional anger, wrong every single time. There's no justification. Because you're at that point, you're not doing it from punishment. You're doing it for relief from your anger, and you're taking out your kid. That's a terrible, terrible way to punish your kid. Now, when a kid is going crazy and they're going wild in the backyard and they're making a mess out of everything, and then they run into the fence, that's painful. They realize maybe I shouldn't be running like that, right? So what is the difference between that and it's like, okay, you're running all that stuff, you grab her, smack her in the butt one time, say bad. Like you're not angry, but it's like what you're doing is bad. Trying to rationale. Now the other form, of course, is positive reinforcement, which it's positive reinforcement of kids as they grow up. I don't know how efficient that is comparatively. I think it's more natural. I don't think it's as natural in terms of truly teaching them, and then trying to rationalize, trying to help them understand when they're in the wrong. But of course they're like young, they're kids. I mean, they only can understand to a certain extent. So you have to use a combination of the three. In my opinion, you have to use the combination of the three to grow your kid up as fruitfully as possible. But you also have to be open, willing. There's ought to be communication, and at the end of the day, the most important factor is there has to be love every single time, because you want your kid to flourish, you want your kid to be better. That's the only reason why things are happening as they are. So this whole scare about like pain, like trauma, like maybe if it's abuse, then yeah, for sure trauma. But if a kid gets, smacked one time by the parent in the butt for being bad, I mean, how much trauma they have? Like imagine them playing a sport, football, and they mess up, they have to do 10 push-ups, it hurts. Are they gonna have trauma? No. Do burpees for like 30 minutes, are they gonna have trauma? No, come on. So I feel like it gets over exaggerated because people are passionate for kids, which is good, but also you gotta really take everything into consideration. Let's move on to that.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. The government has no right to tell people what to do with their body.
Teens versus liberal parents.
Vaccines.
Yeah, I don't think the government has the right to tell you what you want to do.
Sorry.
Okay. I stood here because of vaccines, but I know a lot of you guys probably looked at me like, oh, what about
The government has no right to tell people what to do with their body. He walked up. He then said vaccine. Then they walked up. Teens are very easily manipulated. I'm not gonna lie. He played that card really well.
abortion? Now, the thing is, when it comes to abortion, two bodies are involved. It's the woman and it's the fetus. The fetus, has a heartbeat, has DNA. It should have rights.
When?
Life begins at conception.
That's not when the heart's there.
Heart to beat starts at 4 weeks. It's not just a clump of cells, it is life. At 21 weeks, it can live outside of the womb. Abortion ends with murder and death.
Over 90% of abortions happen within the first 10 weeks.
I think that's not acceptable.
But they still have the potential of having life, though. The mortality rate of a fetus getting aborted is 100%. It's going to die when it's aborted.
And you're very lucky you'll never have to experience what it's like to have to make that choice.
But what if I become a father and, the woman who I got pregnant wants to have an abortion? It's going to affect me.
You would have a discussion with your partner then and decide what you're going to do and be glad that you have a choice to even discuss with that partner.
Unfortunately, human nature, if you take away the option or the right to do that, then they'll find it another way.
And it will be unsafe.
And would you support the mom? Would you support the mom in that scenario?
If the mom had an abortion or the mom went...
No, if she gave birth.
Oh, of course. I would support her. I'd say what you do is a good thing. And
No. Support her financially for the rest of her life or for the rest of the baby's life.
Are you talking about what do you mean me support her? Like as a citizen or?
If somebody has a baby.
We do have child support and it comes from taxpayer money.
There's foster care, there's adoption, there's mothers waiting.
Those systems are very broken and people all the time are trying to stop funding for programs like that.
Now, I want to ask you guys, do you support vaccine mandates?
Yes.
So I mean, you
weren't going to step forward for the first time until that liberal parent said vaccines beyond me. Yeah, it's very, that's why I said they were kind of a little manipulated by.
You stepped forward and said the government shouldn't tell you what to do with your body, though. Why would you support?
My issue is that I believe that the government should not be able to tell me what to do with my body, but I have to accept the consequences for the choices that I make with my body. The vaccines, for instance, I absolutely felt that everyone should get vaccinated. Why? Because this was a pandemic. But if you don't want to, I don't think the government should have to tell you that you have to. But you then have to suffer the consequences of your choices, which means you cannot patronize certain places. You can't put other people at risk.
I know you're saying they're doing it to protect us, but the coronavirus has, I think, a survival rate almost 98%, 99%, and we're mandating these vaccines. Why are we not mandating the flu?
What's frightening to me is that you're equating some minor inconveniences in your privileged life to
why would you assume my life is privileged?
Unsupported.
But why would you assume my life is privileged, though? You don't know my life. I mean, I don't say that about you. Why would you assume my life is privileged?
I'm privileged.
Okay, that's fine, but why would you assume my life is privileged?
For one, you're a man.
Well, I think I give a unique perspective on this because I actually do agree with the vaccine mandate. I think COVID was just a huge disaster, and I think it could have ended a lot sooner if things were more organized.
Definitely. As far as whether the government should intervene on people's bodies, I think there are a lot of instances where the government should. One, to protect the society in general, especially in cases such as a pandemic where the disease could literally wipe out cities. In other instances as well, such as drug use, I think the government should intervene because when you have a society that's addicted to opioids or crack, it spreads like wildfire. And I've seen it firsthand. And it's very difficult to control without the help of government. Now, on the topic of abortion, that one's very complex. And in general, I always want to favor a woman's right to choose. But I think there's also a very fundamental question that both of you brought up is at what point is a fetus a human or a person?
The filming of this episode was paused for 30 minutes after a participant became overwhelmed during the discussion. They returned to finish the episode after encouragement from another cast member. I'm very curious who that person was personally.
Let's say a child is 8 months in the womb, and at that point, the baby has a heart.
It might have been one of the teenagers.
The baby has a brain, has legs, has arms. Do you think it's okay for that to be terminated?
Nobody is doing that. And nobody is having abortions with viable fetuses unless it is a medical
I feel like it might have been him.
emergency that will kill the baby and the mother.
So, what that lady in the blue shirt said is untrue. But people use like absolute terms a lot, so I don't want to correct them all the time because absolute terms is like the death of like reasonable conversation. One thing I will say, right? So try to understand where I'm coming from. The final guy who talked was right on the money. In reality, the concept of the government should have no right to like, tell you what to do with your body. I mean, that whole thing is completely false. I mean, drugs are literally the prime candidate, right? And if it got to a point where like the coronavirus, let's use extremes so we can understand that there are situations, we can bridge a little. If let's use a funny one. If a zombie outbreak existed and there's a cure, for sure that the government is going to mandate every single one of you to take the vaccine so you don't turn into a zombie to cause an outbreak. So yes, there are situations where the government will mandate you to do something with your body for the betterment of society, of course. But the conversation is more nuanced than that. It's like which times is it permissible and which times aren't there. And the vaccine situation, I won't touch that. Although I think the vaccine mandates I had no issue with to an extent. I think the intention was there. The intention was good for the most part, from my understanding at the very least, and the execution, from what I understand, wasn't the best, which is fair to say. I mean, what execution will be perfect when an all of a sudden pandemic is affecting the entire world? I mean, I feel like that is being a little bit more not ignorant, but like a little bit more unrealistic, and that's a better terminology. And then there's the abortion scenario, and I mean, again, we do mandate to an extent, right? Because they realize that there is a certain law, there's a certain situation where if the baby is 8 months and 10 weeks old, it's illegal to at that point kill it, right, in your butt. It's illegal to abort it. So yes, we do have mandates for how your body is worked. I'm not even talking about like the philosophical or moralistic nature behind both of those situations. But if we understand this, then let's have a conversation. Okay, the government can do it. Okay, which times are they allowed to do it? That's the conversation. But these absolute terms, people need to steer away from those absolute terms and have a more reasonable conversation, because they're morally loading a side instead of understanding a lot of these things are more nuanced than you're making it out.
It should be easier to immigrate into America.
It should be easier. The wait time should be shorter, right?
Yeah.
But I believe that it's so lengthy not because the process is so extreme. I mean, personally, I think it's so lengthy because it's mismanaged.
Yes,
I think that
too many hands in the cookie jar.
Well, that too, but I think it's just like there's a way and a process that
This was the 9th middle ground episode on Jubilee channel. We have published one. Okay.
should be put in place so it's not 15 years. Let's say that they fully cooperate, right? Let's say they have everything, they have all their documents, and they're ready. Yeah, I think it should be a lot shorter.
So you're saying make it less bureaucratic?
Yeah, basically.
Okay. I mean, I think I would agree with that. I just feel like when it comes to Trump, you support the individual, but then the bureaucracy, the administration, all of that is so painstaking and just so inefficient, and all of this, it doesn't really compute for me. So I think I'm
Well, we've only been in there a year, right?
For me, yeah. I mean,
and we have so
Why do these Trump I'm all right, let me chill. I'm trying to bridge the gap. I'm not trying to attack Trump supporters right now, but these Trump supporters seem a little different to say.
many changes that we want to make.
So let's talk about a couple of policy things. What about the Muslim ban or the travel ban?
The travel ban to me was more of a, well, it was something that was created by
Obama's
Obama
ban,
anyway.
so it's
But it was
not-
enacted by Trump. Don't get me wrong. I agree with the travel ban, right? And I agree with refugees. But that's two separate things to me.
So what I'm trying to say is that none of these policies that are happening are not to do with one another. They're all intertwined. When we say we support the travel ban, but we also support refugees, but we also want to like help them get vaccinations, and we also want to do this, and we also want to well, don't forget, we're funding the same bombs that are causing the Yemenis to have to become
But there
refugees.
has to be a reason, right? So
That's steering away from the question about immigration. What does this have to do with like Yemen people?
I would like to answer your question about why we're bombing Yemen. We're not bombing Yemen. We're bombing radical jihadists in Yemen who are killing people. That's why we're bombing parts of Yemen selectively to kill people who are doing terrible, terrible things. And there's a tremendous amount of...
We aren't bombing, we're just bombing parts of Yemen. Say that again really slow. Well, he said, I like how they're on like unironic, not unironic, what's the word? I like how they're just putting any comment with the most likes. You know, I respect it. You know what I'm saying?
rape happening in England, taking...
All right, I'm just gonna skip this. This is not a productive conversation. Immigrants, very simple. I said this on my podcast. Make immigration more efficient. Make it shorter. Allow people that deserve to come in the country come in the country. Don't make the process so strenuous. And then all illegals are not allowed. Only legals.
Jacked men are more attractive than fat men. Will the agreeers please step forward?
How come there's 4 guys over there? All right, so we're living in a bizarre world where people don't see the truth. Like, how is it possible that they're thinking, no, being obese and unhealthy is more attractive than being fit and healthy? How is this possible?
Actually, you know what? This is precisely why a majority of women find the...
He's about to say something so stupid. I already know he's about to say something so stupid. All right, let me hear.
Fit and healthy. How is this possible?
Actually, you know what? This is precisely why a majority of women find the majority of men as unattractive. Because a lot of guys think...
The majority of women find the majority of men unattractive. That's such a weird statement to make. I don't even know if you can quantify that at all.
This way, oh, I just be a nice guy and girls are gonna like me. No, they're not. She's not gonna suck your dick with the same veracity when you're a fat as when you're in shape. She's just not. See, people don't understand that women are aroused by one thing and they're attracted by another thing. Women are attracted to, a guy that's confident, ambitious, makes money, etc. Of course, right? But they're aroused by guys that have asshole tendencies, dark triad traits, etc., and guys that are physically in shape. So if you want to get the best of your woman, where she respects and admires you, while simultaneously being aroused by you so she doesn't cheat on you, you need to have it all.
You're saying that's true for all women?
A majority, a staggering majority of women.
There might be 1% of the world that there's something wrong with them that might think that, yeah, you're 600 pounds, it's so hot, I love that, but...
The hot girls that you actually want, they exercise their hypergamy to the highest degree, and they want guys that are fit and have their money together, have their life together.
You're looking at me like you want to say something.
Yeah, because the question was, are jacked men more attractive? We all walked over. Are we more attracted to jacked men?
I'm assuming they framed that because we're all guys here they mean women.
Well, men can be attracted to
if
men.
I had to switch teams, I'm going with the jack guy.
Obviously, this is going to be like personal biases, but I think attraction is very fluid in the sense that I can 100% admit, like, there was probably 40 pounds of muscle ago is when most women would be like attracted to me. Of course, like fitness girls, they're totally okay with the size I am, but like probably most girls I'm like too much for. So I guess like where do we draw that line of like, I think for example like you would be much more attractive to most women than me. Would you agree with that?
I mean, that doesn't mean that like if you walked up to a girl and let's say you're not her, like you're a little bit more muscular than she would like, if you have the charm and charisma, she gonna still go with you, man. It don't matter.
I have an interesting point, and no shade on you, but I think if you had Zach right on the end, if you put Zach and Greg and you put them next to each other and you did a poll, I think that most women would probably pick him if you had to like, because he's...
Yellow tank top dude proves the biggest in the gym are the most empathetic, nicest people you ever meet. W. Yeah, he's a great guy so far. I'm not. Hey man, I'll dap him up. He's making a lot of great points.
He's got the height and all that. What would you guys say to that?
No.
No, well, we can put it to the test.
But that's not really fair. I'm 48 years old. He's a lot younger than me. He's about a foot.
So age matters more. Okay. Oh man, he's about to get in. He's about to cook himself. All right, listen.
Well, we can put it to the test.
But that's not really fair. I'm 48 years old.
So age is more important than being jacked. Okay.
Well, he's a lot younger than me. He's about a foot taller than me.
Height matters more than being jacked.
But you can't compare. I'm an old man. I'm 48 years old.
So age and height matters more than being fit. I'm just saying, based on what he said.
Obviously, height is a big component. So that so it's not you're comparing apples to oranges. But if you take the same guy, same height, etc., but one guy is fat, one guy's in good shape, she's always going to go with the guy that's in better shape.
Yeah, but not everybody's the same height and same age and same everything. There's a lot of different components to a person. Like you can't equate everything but one thing. And it's like, okay, how about I equate, okay, we're both fit, but I'm taller. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's relevant to the point being made.
Because I've been so surprised to see on Instagram, there'll be like guys doing like an outfit try on, like not in shape in the slightest bit. And all the comments are women like, I wish like men knew this is how we wish they looked. And like, oh, this is like the dream.
You're liars, media. Liars for look good. One thing about, you can never believe what women say, man.
You can never believe what a woman say. The majority of women indicate that they want jacked men over. That's what I'm saying. Mine just talks and doesn't think, and things come out.
You believe how they behave, not what they say.
That's a different episode.
That's all right. Figure it out.
Yeah.
I disagreed mostly just with the blanket statement because attraction is so subjective. I am a big and tall model by trade. That's what I do. I model clothes.
He looks like a big and tall model. Let's be honest. This dude is probably the most handsome guy here. He is probably the most. He looks like a model, like 100%. The problem with him is he's like too jacked, but he you know, he's handsome. Nah, hella women are gonna love this dude, bro.
Subjective. I am.
Let's be real. Like, you got the chest hair, man. Come on, bro. Come on.
A big and tall model by trade. That's what I do. I model clothing brands. I've modeled with major fashion houses. I've been on the covers of magazines. You mentioned before dad bod comments and whatnot on social media. I was flabbergasted when I started how many people were commenting and DMing me and talking about how attractive I was. That it just kind of, I don't know, showed me that attraction is a lot more subjective than I thought, and people have a much wider range of what they find attractive than specifically a body type.
Is being jacked the most important trait for being attractive? I'd argue for guys, it'd probably be otherwise, right? I think height would be a very
money, height, fame, like what can you bring to the table?
The number one thing is status. By far, status.
People also go after what they think they can get. So if this guy is 6'5" and extremely attractive, and it's like, well, I can't get that guy. I'm attracted to the 10 on 10 supermodel, but I'm not going to get her, so I'll be happy with the 9.9 on 10.
Just to be clear, are we speaking about women being attracted to men?
It's not just about women. It's just about attraction. What is the most attractive, in your opinion, physique for a man?
Okay, I'm speaking from like what women find attractive. So when I speak, that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, anybody.
He's so what's the word? What's the word? Not condescending. That's not the word. He's so. I don't have the word.
Really fluid. So my law of attraction does not adhere to anyone's standards, pretty much. I'm attracted to people in general. So you could be jacked, you could be more plus size.
So the thing I'll say about this, right? Because I got super fat in COVID. I'm kind of fat right now, so I'm in the gym. Now that I finally can go to a gym consistently, so I can get jacked again. I think objectively, you can make the argument that a more fit guy is more attractive than a fatter guy. I mean, I feel like there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, I can go to the science, but that's irrelevant to the point. So yes, that's fine in general, and I would agree to that statement. But the problem, which I agree with the other guy, is they were making a lot of blanket statements, like most women, all that. In general, attraction, sure, but there are other traits that are very, very, very much attractive. Like there are a lot of women that find, not 1% of women, a lot of women find fat guys attractive. A lot of women find other things more attractive. A lot of women find people who are jacked unattractive. So yeah, it's a lot more nuanced. Attraction is completely subjective and usually determined based off external factors and based on the people you grow up with, right? But yeah, there is usually a bar of like the most attractive people, and they're usually in shape and look very pretty in the face or very handsome in the face. So yeah.
Someone I love died from gang violence.
Oh man, that's crazy. We ain't even got to get up, man. Just ask a question.
The first time I ever seen somebody close to me pass, I was young. My older cousin, right in front of my mama's house. Another black man, just typical statistic gang banging, and it's like visualizing that as a young boy is like that's probably one of the reasons why I am who I am today. It's traumatizing. Like it's traumatizing, and it instantly adapts you to your community, to your environment, to where you at. Because it's like if you don't get down like this, you gonna get down like this.
I was 19 years old, man, and I had seen a lot of people get shot. But I was sitting there talking to this dude. It was actually a kid, Kevin Sykes from 60s. We sitting there talking for about an hour. I'm waiting to go skating. And as soon as he crossed the street, the van pulled up. They had been waiting the whole time, and they gunned him. And that's really fucked me up, man, to see that. They could have easily just came up and gunned us both. It wasn't about Crip or blood. It was just about that anger and rage, like, man, want to hurt somebody. And, man, it left something, a void in me that was, like, spiritual. Like, man, what is God doing? But also that rage was like, man, I want to hurt somebody. And I took it with me from the age of 19, and I just felt suicidal. Like I signed up every day to go out and be dead. I didn't care. I'm going to hurt somebody. They're going to hurt me.
To this day, I still think, I'm almost guaranteed that I'm going to die from street violence.
Are you okay with that, though?
Well,
have you accepted that as a man?
Yes, I accept it because it's like all the negativity I done dished out.
See, I want to say something because this is what's causing me to change because I made that same pact, that same vow for my gang that I'm going to die for my gang. I'll do life for this shit. Yeah. But recent shit has showed me that, nah, I got another purpose. I could do something else. I don't have to die to gang banging.
Let me ask you something real quick, though. You got a child, a baby, a girl?
I got 4 beautiful blessings.
You got 4 beautiful blessings. So here's the thing. Would you die for them?
Of course.
But that's not what they want.
No,
they need you to live for them. Yeah. And you ready to go out every day and die for them, and them the same people need you to be alive.
Damn, man. I done lost some many homies. I done lost some Crip homies. I done lost some blood homies. I'm over with this gang banging shit. If something happened to y'all, y'all will see that I'm so serious about this shit. But I'm on a whole nother note, homie.
Respect.
You feel me? And I don't want to lose y'all. If motherfuckers don't wake up and let's save each other so it don't have to be no more losses, we're going to lose. Straight up.
There's really not much for me to say. I mean, I'm not in the gang culture, but yeah, I wish more people would like kind of listen to the emotion that's coming out from these people. I don't know. It's hurt people. You know what I'm saying?
Today, women have more advantages than men.
I can speak from a hiring standpoint when it comes to things like affirmative action, and there are certain roles that traditionally men and women have been able to serve in, and now women can basically do all of those things, right? Because we've had such a strong advocacy for equal representation in the workplace. Whereas, for example, you'll never find a man as a midwife nurse, and I don't think it's appropriate. That's why there are those differences.
Women in like the most important parts of society have an advantage. There's a lot of positions that men simply aren't getting hired at anymore because of the fact that they're a man. And it's not just in the workforce. It's also, I would say, it's a lot easier for a woman to find a relationship, even if she says it's finding the right guy is so hard. It really isn't. But sometimes for a lot of guys, finding a girl at all is hard.
If I have to consider
Groups in this discussion, men's right, feminist, and Derek.
what I wear before stepping out the house, because I don't want to draw some type of attention. I don't know how many other men have to consider, is this outfit going to be deemed safe for me? Any situations I have experienced where I physically felt endangered simply because I don't want to give my number out. It's part of that entitlement for men. You're not entitled a conversation with me. You're not entitled to my number.
That aside, it's like, are you going to make one example of the entitlement of men when it comes to asking for your number be the all-encompassing thing that all men have a problem when it comes to approaching women?
Well, firstly, it's not just an example. It's not necessarily all men. I don't dislike men. I love sports. I play video games. I have bros. I hang out with dudes. We just want men to realize that if you have friends that are having locker room talk, as a man, as an ally, please say something to your friends.
Do you think repressing that is really the solution here, though? If it's in a healthy male space.
I don't think that's healthy. I think it's toxic in itself.
I mean, if you're making jokes and you're doing all of that.
Jokes that are harmful jokes are not healthy because they just lead to people normalizing things. People always say, oh, it's just a joke. But when someone else hears it, they don't realize how that resonates. And again, how that turns into violence. This is not an isolated situation. I'm only thinking of 3 off the top of my head because if I think of too many, I'm going to spiral
So
right now.
what's the alternative? Men shouldn't talk about these things.
No, I think men can have a healthy dialogue. I don't think men have to be toxic in order to have a conversation. I know plenty of men that are able to have conversations about healthy, productive things, just like women are.
Well, it's not obviously something that I have personal experience with, but only 1% of all people on the death row are women in this country. So when women and men commit identical crimes, women are much more likely to, for example, escape the death penalty. And that's just plain sex-based discrimination.
That I agree on.
That's true. Look, I'm thinking about basic needs, around the globe, the women who don't even have proper sanitary products.
I mean, I have to agree. Just small things like attacks on
Feminism is one of the most popular. I mean, they have a lot of feminism type videos, actually.
on a box of tampons. Do you think I choose to do this monthly? No, trust.
I think the recognition needs to be is that women have advantages. Women have privileges. I think that's the word. Women have privileges. Men have privileges. They both have privileges, and they both have disadvantages. I mean, I feel like we don't gotta make this as complicated as it needs to. And when it comes to these conversations, what's important is understanding which conversation we're having, and then the solution that we're trying to create in that given scenario. So in a situation like they were talking about in terms of men having locker room talk, I mean, women have locker room or gossip talk too. So I mean, this is just you talking to your other people. And I mean, I don't really know exactly which type of talk that they're not okay with. Are you not okay with oh man, she's very attractive? What exactly it is, I wouldn't know. But you just need to understand there's both. But
So why should I have to pay taxes when this is a medical?
Across the board are just treated a lot less equally.
Don't everybody rush forward. When I first decided to go to Santa Monica Community.
As uneducated.
I'm running.
They think they're uneducated.
I'm running for this.
Well, they certainly think they're educated.
And they're following quite a bit of the university system, what we call scientism.
Right, scientism.
Obviously is the belief in what's written, where we tend to be exploring in the field with physical properties.
not theories of any kind. We're using actual measurements that are calculated not by our guidelines, but the guidelines of science as we know it. I can only hope they're uneducated as opposed to disingenuous.
Well, that's the other thing too, because we know that at least on a large scale, the government has been disingenuous, and they're pushing a narrative, right? So it's hard for us. I mean, I'm sure that you've met people too. It's like, look, are you haven't looked into it yet, or are you a shill? Are you part of a disinformation campaign?
I don't think you guys are uneducated. I think you're wrongly educated.
I think the problem with what I've seen in the flat earth crowd is that it's not that they're undereducated, but they, instead of looking at evidence and letting the evidence guide to where the ultimate conclusion is, they start with a conclusion and then they try to cherry pick evidence to support their pre-drawn conclusion. They cast away all the bits of evidence that actually is contrary to their beliefs.
I think that you're very well educated as well as you are, Jim.
Certainly Ali is. He's probably got the best education of all of us.
Exactly, and he paid for it too. But more and more professionals are coming on board.
A flat Earth award? What is a flat Earth award? What's a flat Earth award? I'm looking this up. The director received a flat Earth award. Interesting.
Or they're starting to question their reality. So the thing of it is once you start to really take a hard look at the evidence, and you are unafraid of just standing for the truth, wherever that may lead you, then people end up becoming flat earthers.
I couldn't really see them debunk them, but I mean that's the problem with flat earthers and people that follow under conspiracies. They usually have a conclusion immediately because of their dissatisfaction with the status quo, and then they look up information that kind of coincides with their belief, and they manipulate information to reason it towards their conclusion. So yeah, I can't really help those people. They kind of want to believe this, so it is what it is. Well, that's all we got for today. Very interesting. Jubilee is a very interesting platform, providing a lot of different perspectives. But let me know what you all think, of course. Appreciate y'all. Like and subscribe. We're almost to 500 subscribers. The moment I hit that, I'll be able to get monetized officially. But I'll be trying to make a lot more content. A lot of different content too. I'm a very busy type of person personally, so I have to kind of pick and choose how I do things. But appreciate everybody supporting the channel. Make sure you guys follow all the shorts that I drop to kind of get you informed about what is going on. With that said, y'all have a good one. Take care and peace.